The night was cold, and the city was still, except for the quiet hum of cars passing through the rain-drenched streets. Beneath a flickering streetlight at an old bus stop sat a young woman, thin, pale, and trembling. Her clothes were soaked, her hair clung to her face, and in her arms lay a baby wrapped in a faded pink blanket. She held the infant close, whispering softly as if afraid the world might hear her secret. Her name was Cora, and this was the moment she never thought she'd face, offering her newborn child to a stranger. Before we go deeper into Cora's heart-wrenching story, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of love from unexpected places. Your support helps stories like this one reach more hearts that need hope. 2 weeks earlier, Cora had given birth alone in a small, rundown hospital on the edge of town. There were no flowers by her bed, no one waiting to hold her hand. She had once dreamed of motherhood filled with laughter and lullabies, but those dreams had shattered the day she was diagnosed with stage 2 brain cancer. Her world collapsed overnight, her job gone, her friends drifting away, her boyfriend leaving when the medical bills began piling up. The hospital discharge papers were still folded in her purse when she stepped into the rain that night. Cora had tried to fight. She'd visited charities, called old acquaintances, begged for a chance to keep her daughter. But everywhere she turned, doors closed. The system didn't have room for one more desperate mother with no address and no money. The only thing she had left was Clara, her tiny, breathing miracle, 2 weeks old, perfect and innocent. Cora's strength was fading fast. The dizziness, the pain, the constant headaches, they were her reminders that time was running out. She had no plan that night. She only knew she couldn't let her baby starve or be taken by the system. She sat at the bus stop, crying silently, rocking Clara in her arms, praying for a sign. That's when a man appeared through the mist. He was tall, wearing a dark coat, carrying a paper bag of groceries, his face tired but kind. His name was Elias. Elias was a single father. 2 years ago, his wife had died in childbirth, leaving him to raise their son, Liam, alone. He had spent every day since balancing work, fatherhood, and grief. His eyes carried a softness that only those who have lost deeply could understand. When he saw Cora sitting alone with the baby, something tugged at his heart. He paused, unsure whether to approach. But fate doesn't wait for perfect timing. Cora looked up and whispered, her voice trembling, "Please, can you help me?" Elias stopped, startled. Then she said words that froze his heart. "I can't take care of her. Please, take my baby. She deserves to live." For a long moment, the world fell silent except for the rain. Elias stared at her, unsure if he'd heard correctly. He wanted to say no, to walk away, but something in her eyes, the raw desperation, the quiet surrender, made him stay. He sat beside her as she explained everything in broken breaths. The diagnosis, the fear, the hospital bills, the loneliness. She told him how she'd been sleeping in shelters, feeding the baby with whatever little she could find. She didn't ask for money or pity, just a promise that her daughter would have a chance to live, to smile, to be loved. Elias didn't know what to say. He already struggled to raise Liam, to keep up with his job, to balance the endless ache of missing his wife. But looking at the baby, he felt something awaken inside him, a whisper that maybe this was his second chance at love and healing. He looked back at Cora and said quietly, "I can help, but not like this. You don't have to give her up. Come with me. Let me help you both." That night changed everything. Elias brought Cora and Clara into his small but warm apartment. His son, Liam, only 4 years old, ran to the door with wide eyes, curious about the new faces. Within hours, the small apartment filled with a kind of peace it hadn't felt in years. Cora slept for the first time in days, and Elias stayed awake, watching Clara sleep in the crib that once belonged to his late wife's child. Days turned into weeks. Elias helped Cora get medical assistance through a local foundation that sponsored cancer patients. He cooked for her, drove her to appointments, and cared for the baby when she was too weak to move. Slowly, Cora began to smile again. For the first time since her diagnosis, she felt seen, safe, and loved. Not in a romantic way, but in the way two broken souls recognize the beauty in each other's pain. Cora adored watching Elias with his son. Liam would bring Clara her pacifier and sing to her in his little voice. Sometimes, Cora would sit by the window and imagine a world where she could stay, where she could raise Clara and see her grow. But every MRI, every doctor's visit, reminded her of reality. The cancer was spreading. Treatment might slow it. But there were no guarantees. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Cora sat on the couch holding Clara while Elias made dinner. Her voice trembled as she said, "Elias, promise me something. If I don't make it, don't let her go into foster care. Don't let her feel alone like I did." Elias turned to her, eyes glassy with tears. He didn't speak, but his silence said everything. He would keep that promise, no matter what. Months passed. Cora's health declined, but her spirit grew stronger. She started writing letters for Clara, one for her first birthday, one for her first day of school, one for when she turned 18. Each letter began with the same words. "My dearest Clara, if you're reading this, know that you were the light in my darkest days." When Cora's body could no longer fight, Elias sat beside her hospital bed, holding her hand as she whispered her final words. "Thank you for saying yes." Her heartbeat slowed, and the monitor flatlined softly in the quiet room. Elias took Clara home that night. He placed her in the crib beside Liam's bed and sat on the floor, holding one of Cora's letters. He cried silently, the kind of cry that comes from love and loss intertwined. But he knew she wasn't truly gone. Every time Clara smiled, he saw Cora's eyes looking back. Years went by. Clara grew up surrounded by love. She called Elias Dad, and Liam became her protective older brother. The letters from Cora became treasured keepsakes, read on birthdays and rainy nights when the world felt heavy. And though she never knew her mother in person, she felt her presence in every hug, every lullaby, every whispered prayer before bed. One afternoon, when Clara turned 8, she asked Elias where she came from. He knelt beside her and said, "You came from love. From a mother who was brave enough to ask for help and from a man who was lucky enough to say yes." Elias watched his 2 children play in the garden, sunlight glinting off their laughter. In that moment, he understood something profound. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, and who loves you when they don't have to. Cora had given him more than a promise to keep. She had given him back his reason to live. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Help us spread the message that love and kindness can change lives in the most unexpected ways.